Welcome to Jude the Podcast. I'm David Jude, your host, as always, for the show. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for every like, listen, and download, and all those things. With me, as always, my beautiful co-host, Miss Stacy. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah, good to be here. Bringing us in today with some Grateful Dead. Big Boss Man.
You don't listen to Grateful Dead.
I thought that was appropriate for today's show. Yeah. Yeah.
The Boss Man, that's right.
Yeah,
I was going to say, not when you said Grateful Dead. I'm like, no, the Boss Man, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was I don't know the words to the song, but it's a cool little blues tune we got going on to bring us in. And then really what we're doing today is continuing with our Paris Bourbon County election series. And we're very excited to have a special guest with us today.
The Boss Man.
The Big Boss Man. That's right. We have with us today Mr. Mike Williams, our county judge. Mike, thanks for being with us today.
Yes,
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you for inviting me.
Heck yeah. We're excited. We thought it'd be a great opportunity as we kick off our candidate interviews that we have the opportunity to speak to someone that's currently in office and just talk about a few things. And what we understand is you're not running for office again.
No, I am not. I did not file for re-election. No.
You calling that a retirement, or how do you view in this?
Well, I started by imposing term limits on myself. So this year will be the end of 3 terms, which is 12 years. I don't really intend to retire, but it's time to do something different. I'm a firm believer that we all should stay active, as both physically and mentally, as much as we can, and contribute in any way we can. People you talk to that retire will tell you that they're busier than they ever were, and they don't know how they ever had time to go to work. And that's true.
That is true.
Without question. But I hope to continue doing something productive. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that retirement piece is true. I retired from my first career and retired less than 24 hours. And then I guess I would say once we get into retirement and entrepreneurship, or you're not working for the man anymore.
That's correct.
You're doing your own thing.
Things have changed some.
Some. That's where we both got really busy, it seems like. It seems like there's no time anymore.
Yes. And all of us can be as active as we choose to be. It's the same thing with anything that if you are employed and working for someone, in my case, I'm working for the community on behalf of the citizens, and any role is whatever you make of it.
Yeah.
Whether it be retirement or an active responsibility, people put their own stamp on things, and that's what we need to try to do, and hopefully it's a positive outcome.
Yeah, that's right. So how long have you been in public service? Give me a little bit more history about Mike. Yourself.
Well, county judge executive was not my first elective office. I spent 12 years on the Bourbon County Board of Education, was first elected in 1980 and was reelected twice, so I served for 12 years. The last term, the last 3 years of that term were as chairman of the school board. That was a different time. Education has changed quite a bit since the 1980s and early 1990s. Society has changed. The legislature changed Kentucky public schools, and mostly for the better. Some things, being someone who was involved many years ago, might not be comfortable with how things are done today, but it is what it is, indeed. But my first experience in elected office was as school board member. School board member is one of the most important and toughest jobs of any of the elected positions in any community. We lose sight of that sometimes. An elected school board member has an incredible amount of responsibility, obviously. You're affecting people's children, and no one there's nothing anyone is more sensitive about So it's very important, and unfortunately today it's a struggle to get people to be willing to even run for school board.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
It is one of the most important public service positions that exists in any community, and I'm sure that's true if you're in New York or Pennsylvania or Georgia, wherever you may be. It certainly is true in Kentucky.
Yeah. How did you end up then as our judge executive? Just decided to put your name in the hat?
I did. I'm a lifelong Republican. I've always been interested in politics. I grew up in a household where we were a split household, so to speak. We had a passionate Democrat and a passionate Republican for parents, and in a very positive way. My first exposure to politics was over the dinner table in the 1960 presidential election. My father was a staunch supporter of Richard Nixon. My mother was a staunch supporter of John Kennedy, and they differed in their opinions, but they loved each other when the day was done.
Interesting.
Yeah, it
without
is.
question. And then later,
it's really a lesson of life today.
I had a school teacher in the 8th grade. Ted Custer's mom, Mildred Custer, was my 8th grade teacher at Ruddles Mills School. And one of the things she did as a teacher, and teachers do these things all the time, but she bought every student in the class a subscription to the Louisville Courier-Journal. And that was 1964, so the prominent news flow was indeed the presidential election of 1964, and we read that newspaper every day from cover to cover, and the front page stories were almost always about the 64 in the fall, in the presidential election. So I was hooked at that point without question. And she was very unbiased. She didn't do that to influence in any of the students one way or the other. She just wanted us to be informed. As 8th graders, of course, back in those days, an 8th grader you were practically an adult, or so we thought, that we knew everything, which was never the case. But it was interesting, and it was something that obviously any citizen could be involved with, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I attribute the real interest to Mrs. Custer, and she got me hooked. So I'd always been aware and tried to stay aware of politics in general. And of course, when I ran for school board in 1980, that's a nonpartisan elected office, as it should be. But my belief is there's no real such thing as a nonpartisan election. Right. People are going to check, and when I was campaigning for school board, I don't recall ever asking anybody to vote for me that they didn't ask me whether I was a Democrat or Republican. So my answer would be, I'm a Republican, but this is a nonpartisan race. They always ask, though. And at that time, Republicans were pretty scarce in Bourbon County. I think in 1980, 12% of the registered voters were registered Republicans in Bourbon County. Bourbon County had historically always been a very staunch Democrat stronghold, without question. But in spite of that, I won, and I had a conversation, I always share this, with my grandmother, who was not in the Ruddles Mills district. She lived in Paris, and I asked her, I was just talking with her, and I called her Memo, and I said, Memo, would you vote for me if you were in my district? And she said, no. I said, Memo, I'm your grandson. Wouldn't you vote for me? She said, no, you're a Republican. She was one of those Democrats that had a portrait of Franklin Roosevelt on her,
in her wall.
living room wall. And
wow.
I said, Memo, don't you love me? She said, yes, I love you, but I wouldn't vote for you. So I've dealt with that in my life, but that's okay.
You wouldn't even win your whole household.
That's okay.
That's okay, yeah. So I know you said, the self-imposed term limits, but why walk away now? We're going to get into accomplishments and what you're proud of, but you know, why is it time for you? So you're thinking about hiring a private investigator, huh? Think knowledge, experience, and trust. Think DPJ Consulting. Listen, we're the folks you want on your team. Whether it's a criminal matter, corporate, or administrative issue, or maybe something more personal, you need to make the right choice for you. Our house of expertise at DPJ Consulting can help you with investigations, and that can mean a whole lot of different things. Pre-employment background checks, personal VIP security, and so much more. Check us out at dpjconsulting.com. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, or give us a call at 855-TEAM-DPJ. That's 855-TEAM-DPJ. Give us a call. It costs nothing to talk. It costs you everything if we don't.
I believe that I have hopefully accomplished some things. I have not accomplished everything I wanted to. I very much have wanted to try to do the right thing, whatever that is. The tough part is figuring out what the right thing to do is always. It is exhausting. It's very stressful, without question. And I'm not that eighth grader anymore. I'm not 14 years old or whatever. I'll be 75 years old in August. So I'm ready to do something different. But 12 years is long enough, and we are fortunate in Bourbon County. We have certainly some great candidates that will succeed me. Whoever wins the election in November. Bourbon County got along fine without me before I was there, and I suspect Bourbon County will do just fine after I'm gone.
It's going to do okay, right?
I trust it will. I'm confident it will.
Well, that's a great way to move us into really just giving you the mic here for a few minutes to say, can you give us really a state of the county? What's Bourbon County like now?
Well, we are dealing with a difficult world. Without question. We don't see firsthand in our community a lot of the stress and strife that is going on around the country.
Thank
Fortunately,
goodness.
Yes, thank goodness. But we're affected by attitudes and different ways of looking at things, without question. I think Bourbon County is in great shape. I always tell people that I encounter outside of the community that this is the center of the universe, because it is such a wonderful place to live. The challenge for Bourbon County is keeping our young people here. I have two sons, Rita and I have two sons, and both of them live in Franklin County, and they went away to college and never came back. That's always been worrisome for me. Because they had nothing to come back to, or so they thought that. Now, my personal experience was a little different. I had a little blonde-headed girl that kept me here in Bourbon County 56 years ago. Yeah. But not everybody has those kinds of reasons. So if we think about our young people, very, very few of them stay in Bourbon County after they graduate from high school, whether they go away to college or trade school or whatever they do, they end up living in one of the surrounding communities or even further away. So that's been certainly a big part of our challenge to try to change that. But I think Bourbon County is making progress in that direction. Our population in Bourbon County did not change from 1910 to 2010, when everybody around us, every county, and when I say everybody, I usually speak in terms of counties, pretty much all the surrounding counties grew in population and had housing, and that certainly continues to be a big challenge for us, is available housing in Bourbon County. A lot of people, I think, would like to live here if they just had a house or a property in their price range to purchase or rent and move to Bourbon County. But I think we've turned the corner in the attitude about that being a real need. So if I accomplished anything, hopefully I've changed in some people's mind that feeling that nothing ever changes here or that there's no opportunities here, because that's what we have an obligation to our young people to give them a reason to stay in Bourbon County when they become adults and live here and have their family here, whatever they choose to do. Not just move away, not just come visit mom and dad every now and then. That's a tough challenge, and it's not unlike many communities, without question. We are doing, I think, some very positive things related to recreation. We continue to develop the property that we were able to purchase on Millersburg Road to develop a recreation complex. It's going to be slow going. It's going to take many years to fully develop it. We started this project in June of 2015. So anyone that has those kinds of goals should understand that this is not something that happens overnight. When we first developed the master plan for this park, if we'll call it that, the estimated cost to develop all of it was $40 million. If we could have everything that we wanted, well, that cost today would probably be $100 million.
Right.
So what we very early on realized that we have to try to take small steps and develop portions of it over time. But that takes a lot of money. Money is the key. We certainly have tried to avoid raising taxes just to do things we want to do. The Bourbon County Fiscal Court has reduced the property tax rate 7 consecutive years. The property valuations continue to go up because real estate continues to go up. But that's not the Bourbon County Fiscal Court. We just set the rate. The marketplace determines what property values are. And we happen to have a property valuation administrator, Tim Leiser, today that follows the law to a T and does his job exactly like the law says he should do it. Property valuations are great if you're going to stay, if you're trying to sell property, but if you're wanting to buy property, that changes the perspective, and that's just the way it is. That's true in any community.
And it circles back to your comments about having affordable housing, too.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we have a very small inventory, although over the last few years we've issued building permits and built some houses here in Bourbon County. We're excited about building 20 houses in Bourbon County, where Scott County may be excited about building 500.
Right.
We're different. So we take things as they come, and we have a wonderful planning and zoning commission, as well as a planning and zoning staff that helps folks to realize their dreams of home ownership, and we have to continually attract people that are willing to invest in the house building industry is very expensive. It's not for the faint of heart. It takes a huge investment. So we have to have people that are willing to invest their money in order to buy land and build houses. That's very expensive. And so we're turning the corner, I think, and folks are starting to do that. We're attracting some of the larger builders finally.
I noticed, I was listening to your all's meeting that you had on Friday, and how Michelle gave the numbers on, I really never paid attention when people always talk about we don't have growth, that you may have a structure, but it's several units. So it's still the growth in available housing is there, even though they're multi, like duplexes or apartments or something like that. So that,
and she, in that meeting, she explained, I think I asked a question, because there was a difference in the numbers she was sharing. The number of housing units is indeed the potential residences. So if someone builds a duplex, that may count as one structure, but it's two residences. So,
yeah,
those are important. Everyone is important.
Well, one of the reasons we really wanted to have you on here is, and we even own this, we've mentioned this before, is, life gets in the way and you tend to not being as engaged as you need to be. One thing we found, like on those surveys that we put out for the community, is everybody was like, well, we need growth, we need growth, we need growth. Well, then when I'm listening to the meetings, I'm like, well, it's there. It's just, it's controlled and it's small, but it's there. And so, citizens need to own that part too, that they have to be engaged and actually try to find the information out, as well as just trying, just because you didn't tell me about it,
Yes,
So I think,
don't just make a blanket statement.
Correct.
That I don't see personally something happening. Sometimes you have to look for the changes.
Correct.
And that, again, that's true in any smaller community. And we need to grow our population. No one that I've ever encountered, including myself, wants us to be growing like they do on Nicholasville Road in Jessamine County, if we look at Scott County as one of the fastest growing communities in the United States, nobody here wants that. We want it to be more controlled. Growth in Scott County from time to time has gotten out of hand. The reasons for the growth is pretty obvious. Because of the location of the Toyota manufacturing facility. We understand that. And we in a surrounding community benefit from that without question. But that's not the kind of growth we're trying to inspire. We want to be in control of it. We want to protect our heritage and our farmland, and there's a significant resistance to using farmland for any kind of purpose, and that's understandable. But, Bourbon County has the largest percentage of its land mass dedicated to farming than any other county in Kentucky. 92.8%, I believe, of the land physically in Bourbon County is being actively farmed today. No other county comes close. That's
not a lot to work. The remnants aren't a lot to work with.
That's a big number.
That's a big number.
I hadn't heard that before.
So folks tend to be very protective of farmland. We have the largest acreage in the Bluegrass Conservancy, which putting land in the Bluegrass Conservancy basically forbids any development, any kind of use other than farming. So we deal with that. But in spite of that, and those can be good things for folks who are passionately in favor of that. But in spite of that, we can still have adequate housing and affordable housing. Affordable housing is a very difficult thing to achieve. What's affordable to you may be different than me, and what was affordable, excuse me, when Rita and I purchased our first home is very different than it was and it is today. We purchased our first home for $6,500 and worried about making the payment, which I think was $67 a month. Now you think about that. And younger people today spend literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on properties and make these huge payments, mortgage payments, and don't think a thing about it. I don't know that I would have the nerve to do that. It takes courage to be a property owner. It does.
So who sets the course for our growth? Is it you as the county judge, or are you the vision in this role to say?
I consider that my responsibility, and obviously I do that with the support of the fiscal court, and that's by design. Each individual that lives in Bourbon County, no matter where you live, if even if you're in one of the incorporated cities, you are represented on the Bourbon County Fiscal Court. Every man, woman, and child in Bourbon County is represented by somebody that's on the fiscal court. And that's the way it should be. So those individuals are more apt to interact directly with their constituents even than I might. So they have every right to share their different opinions, and we vote differently on different things, and that's okay. That's the reason we count the votes, right?
That's right.
We're one of the few fiscal courts left in the state that actually do a roll call vote. Most communities do it by hand signed, or they'll say yay or nay, but we still do a roll call vote because it's important that everybody understands what the person representing you is voting for or against.
Sure seems like
we've never been challenged about that.
That's interesting because I think people forget that too.
Well, there's a community a little bit south of us that is going through the ringer with their city council and squabbles between the council and the mayor and who votes for what, et cetera. And I don't know enough about it to get into it. I'm just saying it seems like the concept of a roll call vote helps alleviate some of that.
It does. It's important for people to know where you stand, not only when it comes time for another election, but to be able to talk to you about how you voted or what you were thinking or the reasons. That's fair. If I think you should vote no on something and you vote yes, I have a right to ask you, why did you do that? But I also have an obligation to listen to your explanation. That often is what's missing.
Yeah.
Very much so.
The explanation of why and understanding is often missing, unfortunately, but that's human nature.
12 years in, you have a list of things that you've accomplished and a list of things that you've done. What are you most proud of? What accomplishments really that do you look back and say, I'm proud to have done that? We are so glad to have Ugly Tent as a sponsor to the show. My longtime friend Kenny Dietrich is a subject matter expert in modern survival, bushcrafting, and preparedness. As he challenges us on the show, be prepared for the disaster most likely to happen to you. But let me tell you, Ugly Tent is so much more than just disaster preparedness. You need to check out the website at uglytent.com. That's UGLYTENT.com for a complete list of their products, their classes, and all the services that Kenny offers. There's a lot that I think you'll find interesting at uglytent.com. Again, just a neat place to go. So whether it's for camping, maybe it's a hike, maybe it's just trying to be in the outdoors for a little bit, uglytent.com is filled with the products and the services that you want. Not to mention you have a true expert as a resource for you. Listen, while you're there, use the promo code JUDE, that's lowercase JUDE, and that code will get you 10% off your total purchase. That's a pretty good deal for some really cool stuff. Anyway, check out Kenny at uglytent.com.
The two things that are most prominent in my mind are the recreational complex that we purchased and are still in the process of developing, and the what I call the renovation of US 460 going to Scott County, going to Georgetown. That took a lot of work to get both of them started and a lot of persistence. We worked on both those projects for many years, including trips to Washington, D.C. to beg for money. That's one of the things that, local leaders have to learn how to do. You got to learn how to beg for money from state and federal government. We for the US 460 project, we were fortunate to be awarded a grant from the Transportation Cabinet that basically inspired the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to make the investment in US 460. The grant from the federal government was just under $11 million for a project that probably cost close to $30 million to do the renovation on US 460 from the Paris bypass to nearly to the Scott County line, not all the way into Scott County, but just past Centerville, past the Centerville four-way stop. And now the Transportation Cabinet is moving forward with completing that process in Scott County. They're in the midst of right-of-way acquisition, which means buying property. The design is complete, and there is an expectation that they will start awarding bids for construction this coming summer for work in Scott County to complete that project all the way to Georgetown. It's going to the I-75, the Paris Pike exit on I-75. Right. That's where the project is going to. So that's going to start construction this summer, hopefully. So wow. I'm certainly proud of that. At one time in our history, not in our recent history, but back in the 40s and 50s, US 460 between Paris and Georgetown was the deadliest highway in the United States.
I felt like it was the deadliest when we first moved here still.
It was literally, statistically, the deadliest highway in the United States. And it was because, there was no shoulder, there were trees growing up right against the pavement, and all those terrible things that can complicate accidents, and that's what. I have folks that complain to me about it not being a 4-lane road. There's a reason for that. One being that the Transportation Cabinet can hardly ever afford 4-lane roads anymore. And one of the reasons is that the Paris Pike renovation that happened back in the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s, was the most expensive highway built in North America per mile. So the Transportation Cabinet was discouraged from recommending or trying to 4-lane roads just to make them safe. So they looked to other things. If you notice the construction that has occurred in Bourbon County, the shoulders are there now. The trees and the fence lines are back many feet away from the drive surface. So there's different ways to do that. So that's certainly something I think that will be helpful for Bourbon County for years to come.
I have one question.
Yes,
when you mentioned about the grants, and this is just my ignorance, on the grants, is that part of your office? Like when I know a lot of people and the candidates we're getting ready to interview have lots of solutions for how they're going to make Bourbon County successful.
I did
and
before I got elected.
Well, they talk about grants, and so that's my question is if anybody that's ever done a grant process, it is quite the process, as well as RFPs, very difficult, lengthy. Who does that? So like when you talked about, I think you all applied for the $1 million grant through Andy Barr. Like you've filled out the application for the grant.
That's one that we've recently been awarded.
You were awarded?
A grant.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
That's in the budget.
Oh, okay.
Federal budget. Now there's a difference in being a line item in the federal budget and being awarded a grant. The grant related to US 460 was what, and this is an acronym, and I cannot remember what the acronym said, a BUILD grant, B-U-I-L-D. Okay. All those letters have some meaning to the Federal Transportation Cabinet. But that involved me interacting with the State Transportation Cabinet and encouraging them, and they hired a consultant to write the grant.
Okay.
The State Transportation Cabinet invested in that, which was a big deal. And the folks that were in those offices at the time, the Secretary of Transportation and the Assistant Secretary of Transportation, were very supportive. everybody agreed that it needed to be done, that the safety changes needed to be done. So that was never a question. So there is a process in the federal government and the transportation cabinet in particular where you can apply, and it still goes on, you can apply for federal assistance for worthy projects. And safety is the primary clincher almost always, as it should be. So that involved 2 years in a row. We submitted the application. First year we were denied. Went to Washington, D.C., and went to the Secretary of Transportation and all the congressional offices and like I said earlier, begged for money. We were not successful. We didn't give up. Next year, we went back to Washington again and requested it. Got some guidance on how to word the narrative. You always want to keep in mind the folks that are in the bureaucracy that are reading grant applications have never been to Bourbon County, Kentucky, or Scott County, or whatever. So they're just cold reading your narrative. And I understand that. So you have to win them over, so to speak. And Elaine Chao was the Secretary of Transportation at the time, and she approved it. Her chief of staff was a gentleman from Owensboro, Kentucky, who did some coaching with myself and Gordon Wilson, who was instrumental as our economic development director. And Gordon had 40 years experience in building roads with a local company. So we had I think all the right players involved. We just had to keep fine-tuning what we were asking for, and finally it paid off. So the federal government gave us literally almost $11 million. It was $10 million something, whatever the change is. We, the Bourbon County Fiscal Court, had to commit $1 million of local money. Grant awarders always like to see communities have some skin in the game.
Sure.
They want to see that you're willing. This is important enough to you to be willing to invest some of your money. So we did that, and we've paid that back. That's been done. We received that money, but then the state transportation cabinet was willing to make that investment. They couldn't say no, basically. Once the federal government said, we're going to give you this money to build this road, and they said, okay. And so they've invested a lot of money, and that's been helped along certainly by our representatives in the General Assembly, Senator Steve West and Representative Matt Cook. They've been supportive of those kinds of things. Same thing with our park development. We were in the last biennium budget, we were awarded $3 million to be used on this park property, which is money that we're using today for the current development, the current construction. And we had also been disciplined enough to hang on to some money that came from the federal government in the what is typically known as the ARPA legislation. That's the American Rescue Plan Act that was passed in 2020 or 2021. It's when the federal government, regardless of how we feel about the political aspect of it, every county and city in the United States was given money. So, and basically nearly free reign on what you could do with it. So we hung on to it and saved it. So we're completing a $7 million project with $4 million in federal money and $3 million in state money. It hasn't cost Bourbon County people anything unless, obviously, you're a taxpayer for the state or federal government, which we all are.
That's interesting.
There's ways to do that.
That's very. I didn't mean to interrupt you. My apologies. You hit on something that was going to bring up after a while, but now's a good time. You've caught some flack for the park.
Yes. Still,
and I'm trying to think how to phrase that. And from our survey, we a lot of the comments were wasted money and we can't afford those things. But then to hear you explain it, it's not really costing anything than our normal tax dollars. As a public servant, how do you respond to that criticism?
Well, you certainly have to be a good listener and accept that not everybody agrees with what your intentions are. You have to accept that not everybody will agree with what you're doing, but you have the responsibility to make decisions and make choices. I wish personally that local officials had done this exact thing 50 years ago or 70 years ago. They did not. They chose not to invest in something like this. And the motivation for the park is twofold. For enhancement of the quality of life in Bourbon County and for economic development impact. The first thing that any company will ask if you appeal to them to locate their business in your community is, what kind of recreation facilities do you have? Where are my kids going to play soccer? Where is my wife going to play tennis or pickleball or whatever the case may be, whatever they are used to? If you're going to encourage businesses to have an impact in your community, you have to be prepared for that. And once again, every community around us had done that years ago. That was missing in Bourbon County. We had, baseball fields at Garrett Park that flooded twice a year, and there was an expense to clean up the flooding and debris, and so the kids could play baseball. So this year, youth baseball is going to be played on that property on artificial turf, which kids want to do. It's a big deal.
It's a cool thing, I guess.
It is. But that took an investment. So I always try to be very accepting and cordial to the challenges, but I'll also try to point out the positive impact to making changes. Yes, it's true, this is a significant investment, but we have to think about 50 years from now or 20 years from now, not just today.
Well, I know
that's the important thing.
When he was coaching tennis back in the day when Rachel was little, it was a challenge to try to find places, for the high school to play and things like that. And I way back when we were trying so hard to, who's going to own it? Who's going to own it? And you realize that, I know a lot of people talk about reinvesting into the current parks that we have, but like you said, it's in the flood zone that you've got families that are donating money, seed, grass, whatever to clean up, because it is going to flood. I mean, we know that if it, even with the forecast coming up. So that was always a struggle. And we were very fortunate that our manufacturing company would let us play tennis on their, that was private property. That was not even public property. And so for us, we're super excited, that this is something that keeps the kids around. I have to eat my words a little bit. Tony Sosby was the former athletic director at the high school. And I think the world of Tony, he's always been very good to me. And I've always enjoyed our conversations. But as the coach, he came out one day to the courts to say, hey, and if you were going to design these, what would your wish list be? And yeah, I was like, man, that ain't ever coming here. We're never going to get that stuff. And, you've heard that for 100 years and blah, 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 I guess. But we've been here 26 and it happened. It finally happened. It is. Yeah. And indeed, the regional tennis tournament. Sure. Held at that facility this past April, I guess. I really don't think that people sometimes they want to quickly say something, but they really don't realize the income that it brings between band, tennis, softball, what it does to all the businesses that I remember one of those kind of came in, and I think the restaurants ran out of food because they hadn't realized that many people were going to be in the city, which is a wonderful thing, but also not, that you didn't stock up more, on your supplies.
That was one of the cross-country events
Yeah.
that we held on the property. Yeah. We were fortunate to host the KHSAA state championship 2 years in a row here, and we're hopeful that that'll come back. They've recently used the horse park facility, and the state, the KHSAA pays them a lot of money to do that, somewhere around $25,000 last year just for that one-day event. Those kinds of things can be done here, and that's one of the things we wanted to prove early on with the cross-country events is this is an option. This is a place you can go. 70% of the United States population can drive to that park. If you start at daylight, and you can get there before dark, literally. That's true for Bourbon County in general, but if you have a child that lives in Detroit and they want to play tennis or softball at that park, they can drive that in 5 or 6 hours and be there.
About that.
Yeah, be right there in the same day.
Never turn off of US 68. US 68, I said Detroit because US 68, I think, starts, or at least that's a northern tip of it. You can literally drive the entire road to that park and make one left turn and be there.
The final left turn.
Getting back to Paris, that was when we had our Airbnb, that was the majority of the people were people on transit, that Paris was a great little stop right off the interstate to come and stay. And so the majority of our clients were all like that. They were traveling, and it was just, they always picked Paris instead of Lexington because it was smaller and just more cozy, I guess.
Have you had time yet to see any return on the investment of 460 or the park?
Well, not in particular for 460 because it's not completed. I think once it is completed in Scott County all the way to the interstate, we will very quickly. So I would be hopeful that within another calendar year, by the end of sometime in 2027, we'll see that. The park itself it's going to be slow. We're going to see, I believe, a lot of good feelings about youth baseball being held there, and then later on youth soccer. These artificial turf facilities, you can play soccer today and change the stripes and play baseball tomorrow. You can have 4 baseball or softball games at one time going on that property. I think you can have, depending on the age group, you can have up to 8 soccer games occurring at the exact same time on that property. So I think very soon the impact to the quality of life in Bourbon County will be more evident than the economic impact down the road.
Sure.
Those so far, like the cross-country events, so far they have been 1 or 2 day impacts. And I think we want to see people that start wanting to be here and staying here because that is one of the enhancements in the community. So that's going to take longer.
Yeah.
But I believe it will come. Certainly, you can't persevere in a 12-year project if you don't believe that. So I've always believed that, and
still do.
I still do. Yes.
Yeah. So we've talked about some of the accomplishments that you're proud of, but in this run, and given the length of time that you've talked about that it takes to move a project from a vision to completion, there has to be some things that have alarmed you or keep you up at night, or some things that you would like to see finished at this point. Are there any of those that you want to talk about?
I certainly want to see ongoing support for the projects that are already going, like the development of the park. My goal, my personal goal for the next step in the park is to build the amphitheater. always said that because, folks like me need to have somewhere to go to see the Rolling Stones or the Beach Boys in concert. And I'll be there with my walker and whatever. And but that's a portion of the master plan that potentially has the most widespread impact for all ages. Band concerts, local band concerts, high school graduations, those kinds of things. Or if your family wants to use it, for whatever, I think that one venue has the most potential to be the most impactful to the community.
It would get an awful lot of people out to the park.
Certainly can.
Yeah.
We have requested money in the current state budget to be for that purpose. The current state budget is not real encouraging. The legislature is not real encouraging. They seem to be taking a position that revenues across the state are down in general into the state treasury. So they're not real optimistic that communities are going to be helped like we were 2 years ago when Matt Cook and Steve West secured $3 million in the state budget, and that's not a grant. That's a line item in the budget. They just write you a check.
Wow.
You have to use it for the purpose you said you were going to use it, and we are.
But that's your money.
So potentially, what I misunderstood, but potentially the $1 million would be earmarked if they pass it.
That is in the federal budget.
Federal budget. Okay, sorry.
So we have working with Congressman Barr's office, we have previously requested up to $8 million for infrastructure development on the park property. For water infrastructure, including building a 1 million-gallon water tank on that property. Congressman Barr secured $1 million for that purpose 3 budgets ago. The latest $750,000 that is in the budget passed 3 weeks ago is for that same project, so you have to ask for it a little at a time. He also awarded $1 million to a request that originated with the Nicholas County Fiscal Court for the purpose of using on our joint industrial park that is just outside Millersburg, literally just across the county line. It's physically located in Nicholas County, but we have been awarded that money in the current federal budget, the one just passed. And goodness knows, passing a federal budget seems to be quite a task.
Right.
Doesn't happen every year.
No.
They passed one 3 weeks ago. So the Bourbon County Fiscal Court will get that $750,000 to use on the water infrastructure project on the park property, and will be the joint recipient of the $1 million that was awarded for the joint industrial park. And we're encouraged to partner with our neighbors by state and federal grant awarders in any way we can. So that's why we partnered with the Nicholas County Fiscal Court to develop this property. The Nicholas County Fiscal Court has been awarded an ARC grant. They are an ARC county. If you're familiar with what ARC, Appalachian Regional Commission, there's a group of counties in the United States, in Kentucky, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, that are part of that. Bourbon County is not, because they were primarily counties that were impacted by coal. Bourbon County was not, but Nicholas County, on behalf of the joint industrial park, applied for and was awarded $1.93 million to be used to build sanitary sewer infrastructure on that property, which is a very positive thing. So both counties are contributing to that. We have been awarded 3 different times through state grants, something called the Kentucky Product Development Initiative, which is originally came from federal legislation. Actually started with the ARPA legislation in 2020. That's how we bought the industrial park property. It's 100 acres. That's how we'll pay for the infrastructure that we're in the process of designing and planning for now. So, again, it's a joint state and federal. We have to work with our state and federal partners to try to get that. We don't have the cash just to do that. It takes a lot of money to build the infrastructure. Say, here's a piece of land. And we if somebody wants to build a factory there, you have to have infrastructure. You have to have water and sewer, and it's right next to a rail line. TTI/MD rail is on the edge of the property. Columbia Gas is there. All the utilities are right there. But that takes time, and we have to follow those rules and appeal. Like I say, we get pretty good about hat in hand and begging for money. That's what you do.
So it's a long game, plus the change in players constantly.
It
with
is,
that too.
Indeed. Yeah. And indeed, for county officials, every 4 years there's potential for changing the players. We obviously, in Bourbon County, will have a different county judge executive come January 1st. But, at the 12 years that I will have been in office, there have been 3 different fiscal courts, meaning the magistrates. And each time, the previous 2, I was elected in 2014. In 2018, we had 6 out of the 7 magistrates changed. In 2022, we had 5 out of the 7 magistrates changed. So there's always a potential for that. So you're starting over literally, and the people that are involved in the negotiations and interacting and trying to win their hearts and minds. So it's challenging, but it's part of it. It's the most fun I've ever had as far as work.
Right.
It truly is. And I think because I've been fortunate to have a very diverse life experience, so to speak. I worked 30 years at IBM. There's not a day goes by that I don't use some of the things that I learned and practiced at IBM. I was an HR manager there. My 12 years on the school board has served me well. If you can survive as a school board member, you can do anything. It gives you encouragement and literally there's so much there that helps anybody, and just life in general, as we all know, teaches you. But it's right. That collection of that life experience.
We are going to have a new county judge in Bourbon County. So it's coming. We've talked about that already. And I want to be respectful of your time, too. I think we could talk for hours. So we'll get you on about, because you've got another appointment here coming up. But in regards to the new incoming judge executive, you're leaving office. What guidance would you give the new judge executive?
Well, I think probably the most important thing anyone in leadership does is selecting people for key positions that are going to be decision makers and that you can trust to be somewhat like-minded with you. Doesn't mean that people in leadership positions can't disagree with whoever's in charge, but you have to trust that they think for the good of the community and want what's best for the community and for employees in general. That is the most important thing that anybody does. Now, typically in county government, there is not a wholesale change of employees when a new county judge takes office. That may not be true in some counties, but in Bourbon County, historically, that's true. I have a wonderful staff. You know, we have folks that our fire chief has been in place for 20 years. Our parks director has been in place for 20 plus years. People that know their business and do a quality job. They're in place. So whoever is elected is not going to come in and just wholesale change all that. Right. That would be unwise. It would. But indeed, in some counties, they have the power to do that. In some counties, that happens.
Surely.
Typically, that happens when someone ran for the office for the wrong reason. They ran for the office just to clean house, so to speak, or whatever. That's not the right thing to do. So in Bourbon County, we're very fortunate that we'll have continuity in that sense, because the people that are doing the work today are going to continue to do that work. I would certainly encourage them to be a good listener. And I'll spend as much time as I can pointing out things that they have to be aware of, but the staff that's in place are the best resource for them to dot the I's and cross the T's, whether it's with the Transportation Cabinet or any agency in other branches of government. You got to follow rules. You know, county governments, we are by law required to have a balanced budget. State government and federal government are not. Your county government is required by law to have a balanced budget. We cannot spend more money than we have, so you have to follow the rules and make sure. We have an excellent treasurer, Dana Boone, who's been our treasurer since 2017, is going to make sure that we follow those rules and do the things that we want to. But it's the quality of the people they have in place and keep in place, I believe, is the most important thing. I would encourage whoever the winner is in November that they do that and think that way. But they have the ability to do whatever they want to come January 1st, that's for sure.
Well, let's hope they heed your advice. There's a lot of instilled knowledge that's in your office, is what I took away from what you were saying.
Yes, there is.
To lose that would be a real detriment. And let's hope that the politics of that stay out of it and realize there's a lot of knowledge still left in that office and use it where it needs to be.
Indeed, there is, and there will continue to be. I didn't really answer your question earlier about things that I may have been a little disappointed in or somewhat disappointed in. I am disappointed that I was not more effective in making the expansion of Bluegrass Station happen, because I am convinced that would be the true game changer for Bourbon County and the creation of jobs and economic impact for Bourbon County. There was just a voracious campaign against it by what I consider a handful of people. I believe the majority of the people of Bourbon County were open to a potential economic impact there by creating jobs, and it was hinged on the resistance was hinged on giving up farmland in particular by this thing called eminent domain, which, if you think about it, eminent domain, if it did not exist, there would not be a highway or a government building in existence in the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
Paris Pike would not exist. US 460 would not exist. The courthouse would not exist. No streets in Paris if there wasn't such a thing. It's very rarely used, and I believe it would have been very rare in that particular case.
Do you feel it was because I didn't mean to interrupt you, but do you feel it was because people caught wind of it off the government or the state website and they weren't really educated at first on what?
I think
people get all up in arms if they don't have the knowledge or they don't have the information to make a decision. Or
correct. Yes, I agree. I agree with that statement. I had my experience, and I had two governors, Matt Bevin and Andy Beshear, came to me and said, "We are going to make this happen." They both lied to me.
Yeah.
You have to deal with that when you're local government dealing with state government. Both of those governors lied to me personally to my face and said, "We are going to make this happen because it's the right thing to do for Kentucky. It's the right thing to do for our national defense. It's the right thing to do for Bourbon County." They won me over. The people that worked with them won me over. I agreed. This is the right thing to do. It was an opportunity. And then when crunch time came, both governors basically chickened out.
Do you think it's dead? Do you think it'll come back up later, 20 years from now?
It's always possible, I believe. As long as the Commonwealth of Kentucky owns Bluegrass Station, and the Commonwealth of Kentucky owns Bluegrass Station. There's 700 plus acres there.
Wow, I didn't know it was that big.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's almost all in Fayette County. There's just a small portion in Clark County. There's a very, very small portion in Bourbon County. The only area potentially that can be expanded is in Bourbon County. The reason primarily being that they can't expand further back into Fayette County is there is a former landfill there, and the Federal Aviation Administration will not allow anyone to build an airstrip over a former landfill because of the concern about birds primarily. So the only option would be to build in Bourbon County, which would require obviously purchasing land. And I believe most of the landowners affected would welcome the federal government purchasing their land. That happens a lot, sometimes for 2 or 3 times what the market value is.
I was going to say that lends itself to saying it's over market value.
Yes, yeah. Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Well,
yeah.
And I think that's where some of the decisions kind of come in when people start talking. They may not have all the information, and it just goes off the rails a little bit. So.
It does, and that's unfortunate, but that is my personal failure because I had the responsibility to make that happen in Bourbon. Certainly in 2017, we proposed that the fiscal court buy the land and then resell it. The Department of Education were committed to build a vocational school on the property in Bourbon County. We had an opportunity for Bourbon County young people to be trained in a lot of different highly skilled, high-paying career paths, and we missed that opportunity. Whether or not it would have been 100% like the people that were proposing it, it never is. But if just a piece of it, a part of it, was going to impact Bourbon County, that would have been a good thing.
Can you speak, again, being respectful of your time, but can you speak a moment on, so the 2 governors that you mentioned are 2 different political parties?
Yes.
Almost opposite ends of the bell curve when it comes
Very
politically.
So, yes. Without question.
Without question. And both of them had those conversations personally with you, but both of them backed out of it.
Yes.
Can you touch a little more on why what?
Well, my perspective is they didn't have the courage to do what they said they were going to do. I tend, when someone tells me they're going to do something, I tend to accept that. Once I accept that, I expect them to do that. And they both told me they were going to do something that they chose later not to do, obviously because of pressures, and I understand that. I get that. The mood changes, right. And
But that trickles down. You're left holding the bag, basically.
Yes.
The governor says, I'm the governor and I can do what I want, and I'm choosing not to do it. But unfortunately.
Because like my perception of it was a little bit different. And so you're kind of like, well, that's kind of dirty. that's kind of dirty.
And they move on and leave you and roll on to the next project. And you're left to deal with the cleanup and the mess.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Governor Beshear even declared that it was the local leadership that had changed their support, and that was not true. That in itself was not true, because I was never asked.
That's interesting.
Yeah, certainly.
But I do tend to remember when people lied to me.
As you would after a successful public service career. What else haven't asked you about? Anything else we need to talk about? I'll give you the closing comments before I close the show.
Well, we certainly are very fortunate to be here. I do sincerely believe that Bourbon County is a very special place. I have a deep and abiding love and appreciation for Bourbon County and what it stands for. It's an unfinished product, without question. There will always be people that disagree with me and what I think is best for the community. I understand that and I accept that, but I have an obligation to try to accomplish what I think is best for the community. And I hope 20 years from now, whenever folks will generally feel that way, that I did what I thought was the right thing to do.
Well, I can tell you, for Stacy and I, you've always been available to us. You've always been good to us. If we've ever had questions or needed to have a conversation or just talk or any of those things, you've always been, you always made time for us. And we appreciate that because it doesn't always feel that way. And so I guess we'll just share that to say we appreciate that from you, have respected you for your time in office and the things that you've done for Bourbon County. So if that has any bearing on us, then
thank you, sir.
Then we appreciate that.
That's very kind of you.
Absolutely. Congratulations on a great career. Congratulations on your public service.
Let us know what's next.
Whatever you do next.
I will.
Let us know.
You may see me at the McDonald's window or the Wendy's window or whatever.
2 large Diet Cokes. That's just a standing order for us.
I understand.
Hey, listen, this has been a great episode for us. We really appreciate our county judge, Mike Williams, coming in to spend some time with us. On behalf of the show, thank you for every like, share, download, listen, and we'll continue our time with our Paris Bourbon County election series. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.